So before we get into the fun stuff talking about the opening games, we just wanted to say that we're sending all of our thoughts and love over to those in Auckland that got caught up in the shooting that happened right before the first game kickoff with New Zealand. I know 2 unfortunately have lost their lives, and we are sending all of our thoughts over to their families.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
And I'm Allie.
And we are here for World Cup coverage, baby. Episode 1, Episode 2. Technically, this is Episode 2, but games, the first games we're covering. I'm very delirious. I'm very tired. I could literally fall asleep right now as we are recording. I could take a nap mid-sentence, but it was all worth it. I'm so excited to talk about this. The World Cup is here, baby! How was your morning watching the games? For everybody listening, Allie was about to tell me how their morning was, and then I was like, wait, let's just hit record. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I started off watching the New Zealand game at home, and then I watched it on my phone on my way into work. And there was at least 3 other people on the tram who was doing exactly the same as me, including 2 dudes, which I was surprised at, because they were like dudes. So I didn't know if it was like they were like...
Yeah, what you guys call like blokes and what we call like bros.
Exactly. They were proper bros. They were proper dude bros. And I was like, fair play to you, my friend. Fair play to you.
Yeah. For those of you listening who are like, wait, I thought you guys were going to the World Cup. We are. I am. We're going for the knockout round. So right now I am stuck in watching this early morning, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about our sleep schedule. We are here to talk World Cup, the 2 games to start the tournament, and what a start to the tournament it was. The host nations both played. New Zealand and Australia, record-breaking crowds in both New Zealand and Australia.
New Zealand smashed it.
Absolutely smashed it. Eden Park, over 42,000 people. The previous high for a football game in Australia, men's or women's, was about 12,000. Smashed it. Stadium Australia and New Zealand also smashed it. That was about 76,000 people. Oh my goodness. Record-breaking crowds for both teams and wins for both host nations, baby, to start this tournament in front of their home crowds. Does it get much better? Like chills, just chills with that.
Me and you have very different experiences because we watched the games in reverse. So I have a very different feeling about, and we'll get onto it when we get onto it, but I have very different feelings about Australia, Ireland than you do.
That's true. Because
we watched it in reverse.
I was going to attempt to wake up at 3 a.m. for the New Zealand game. I was not able to do that, but I was up at 5:30 to watch the Australia game. So yeah, I watched Australia, Ireland, and then I watched New Zealand, Norway. So I'm a little fuzzy on what happened in Australia. Ireland, I had to go back and rewatch because I was like, well, before my coffee, I'm not sure. But anyways, I just want to spend a moment because that's like, before we get into the game specifically, for the fact that both of these host nations won, and they both won 1-0, and we'll talk about it more, but I just want to say, like, those 2 moments when New Zealand scored and when Australia scored, I just had it was chills. Like, I could have cried in those moments. That, like, those are the special moments. Those are the moments that we remember in these World Cups. Like, these are the images that get printed on the paper and that will truly live forever. And I think those moments will live forever in my brain, because you just imagine what it was like for both of those players, and it's beyond words, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I had it for the Wilkinson goal. I didn't have it for the Catley goal.
I don't know how you didn't have it for the Catley goal, but we'll come on to it. And we have to say, with this win for New Zealand, this is the first World Cup win in the history of the country, men and women. Just so awesome for them to get this. Opening game, home crowd, record-breaking attendance. Just like, literally, this is what dreams are made of. If it's okay, I have a few fun facts before we really kick off into games. Number 1, this tournament has the most publicly, quote-unquote, out LGBTQ plus players ever.
Including the one that scored the first goal.
Exactly. Number 2, fun fact, there are 12 female coaches in this Women's World Cup, and that is a new record.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
And fun fact number 3, since the year 2000, all but one of the major tournaments for women's football, so the World Cup, the Olympics, and the Euros, have been won by female coaches. The only exception is Japan in 2011.
Those are fun facts.
I can't take credit for them. I'm deep in I'm deep in the internet. Somebody else was like digging around and found them, and I'm just reading a lot of articles. The first game of the tournament, so we have to kick it off with this game. It is hosts New Zealand versus Norway. Did I get up at 3 a.m.? No, I did not. So I have a lot of notes for this game because I was really coffeed up for this one. New Zealand took this 1-0, their first ever win in World Cup history, as we mentioned before. With this win, they broke the longest winless streak record in World Cup history. So that's a fun fact, and what a place to do it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think, to be honest, unless you were a Norway fan, I think a lot of people were cheering on New Zealand to...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a
streak.
great game for everybody except for the Norwegians.
Yeah.
Before the game, Allie Riley, one of the co-captains for New Zealand, said that winning a World Cup game at home would be, quote, the greatest game of my career. And then she was just sobbing after the game. It was so special. I'm just going to continue to highlight these beautiful moments because I can't believe what a day this was to kick off the World Cup. But let's get into the games because that's what we're here to talk about. New Zealand versus Norway. First half, I have to say, I was a little unimpressed. It was sloppy on both sides to start the game for the first 10. It looked like a lot of nerves were just winning on both sides of the ball.
I disagree.
It was everywhere and all over the place the first 10 minutes. It was just I'm just talking about the first 10. Everywhere. Nobody could settle the ball.
I do think there was some nerves, but no, I thought New Zealand looked composed from the off. Like, New Zealand knew what they had to do because it was their first game at home. So I feel like Norway, on the other hand, had no idea what they were doing. I feel like
I
New
actually
Zealand...
fully agree with that. Like, I was going to say, the first 10, I think the nerves got the best of both teams. But New Zealand looked the most composed, and they were able to get a hold of themselves way quicker than Norway were. They had the edge on possession, and they had the more dangerous opportunities throughout the entirety of the first half.
Yeah, and they completely stopped Norway doing what Norway wanted to do.
Do we even know what Norway wanted to do?
Well,
honestly?
that's a thing when we talk about Norway. But for me, for New Zealand, in that first half, they were cutting off all, like, Hegerberg and all of the, Hansen and everybody. They were winning it in the middle. They weren't allowing Norway to gain any real ground. They were constantly pushing them back into their own half. They had a game plan and they stuck to it and,
I would agree.
really...
I think that's the story of the first half is New Zealand's defense. I think first half, that is the story of the first half. Caroline Graham Hansen, I have to say, she created the best chance and almost, I think, one of the only dangerous chances that Norway had in the first half on the dribble. I mean, she took it down the sideline, she cut it back to Hegerberg, but there was nothing there at the end of the day. And that's really almost some of the most we saw of Caroline Graham Hansen. But despite her being on the ball like 3 times this entire game, she is so good. Somehow, having only been on the ball those few times, her talent on the ball, her talent on the dribble was on full display. Her composure, she's just a talent like no other. I just love watching her play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't normally agree with Rachel Brown-Finnis, who we had on commentary today, but I agreed with what her assessment was, which is you have Graham Hansen doing these things. Where was her option? Like, Norway, there was nobody off the ball that she could get to or do anything. And it was the same for all of their strikers. Like, there was nothing.
I mean, okay, so before we really dive into the depths of Norway, because I feel like then we'll get a little upset when we talk about Norway. So I feel like you nailed it with the story of the first half. The second half was very interesting because immediately Norway came out in a high press, which they weren't doing really throughout the first half. And immediately, 3 minutes into the second half, New Zealand puts that beauty of a goal away.
Oh, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Hannah Wilkinson for a second because that goal was so well deserved. She was everywhere on that field the entire first half, the entire second half. She had such a game. She was creating so many chances. And that moment for her, like you said, I mean, like watching it live to see her have that moment, just it brought tears to my eyes We called her out. For those of you who listened to our group preview episodes, this was episode 1, Group A. We were talking about New Zealand. We called her out. She's the 31-year-old who plays for Melbourne City FC. We knew she was going to be their goal scoring threat. Did I know it was going to be to this level? And frankly, that she could perform on this stage at this level? It was a question mark. And to say she came through is an understatement.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the hero's welcome she got when she got subbed off eventually was just something special. And it's like, the thing is with this New Zealand team, there are so many players that have been playing for them for so long. You've got so many players that have got over 100 caps for their team. And to finally have that moment.
You're giving me chills. Yeah. I mean, that's what's beautiful about this New Zealand team. They do have that, and then they also have this balance. They've got 10 players who just made their first ever World Cup roster. They have the balance that we talk about. That is key for teams. Before we move on from Hannah Wilkinson, I just want to call out, I was looking up some of her A-League stats, because we talked about this in the group previews, just how lethal she is in the A-League. In the 2021-2022 season, she scored 14 goals in 13 starts. And this past year, she scored 6 goals in 12 starts. I mean, she is a monster. And I love that she got this moment.
I also want to shout out the 2 Rileys. I think both Allie Riley and also India
You took the words out of my mouth.
Because literally, the 2 Rileys, both of them were phenomenal. I think especially India Page Riley, who is such a brilliant new talent that is just bursting onto this international scene. I honestly thought she had just played out of her skin for this game.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, other than Hannah Wilkinson, I think she is maybe MVP of this game. For me specifically, she started the attack on that goal scoring opportunity. She's the one who started the attack. She had that great ball. Her back was to the goal, and she just had this great one-touch pass wide. Just one touch to Jackie Hand, who played that also stunningly gorgeous ball across the middle of the field to Wilkinson. I mean, talking about 2 beautifully placed goals, but I mean, back to Paige Riley, she started that attack, and that whole goal was textbook all around, and she was orchestrating so much, pulling the strings for New Zealand, taking shots. She had that one shot across the face of the goal, and McAllison, the goalkeeper for Norway, had to full extend, leaping, diving save just to knock that away from going in the top bucket.
Yeah.
What a talent. That was just so fun to watch her play. Like you said, 21 years old. She plays in the A-League for Brisbane Roar FC. This is what's fun about the World Cup. We get to see this on full display on the world stage.
Yeah, 100%. And also, Jackie Hand, she got the assist, again, was absolutely everywhere on that pitch. You know, that's the thing that was so good about New Zealand was, like I said, they were cutting Norway out, and they might lose possession very quickly, but then they would get it back super quickly and then maintain it. And at first they were lacking a little bit in that final third, but they just shot after shot after shot. It was just mesmerizing to watch.
I think New Zealand really grew into this game. And I have to say, of the 4 teams we're talking about, New Zealand, Norway, Australia, and Ireland, I think New Zealand put in the best performance possession-wise. None of the other 3 teams could maintain possession like New Zealand could. Like, they were arguably the best team. They were the best performance between these 2 games of all of the 4 teams.
Agreed. You want to tackle that missed penalty or talk about Rhea?
We can talk about the missed pen. I mean, it's just, I got nothing to say. Just unlucky, you know? It hits the crossbar. It happens. Rhea Percival, co-captain for New Zealand, a veteran in her own right, and
was looking shaky because did her ACL in last summer, and it was looking.
I was just about to say, I was so happy to see her on the field because she's just back from ACL, and I thought she had a great game, actually.
Oh, she was fantastic. Her corners were something special. They were sublime, those corners she was doing.
Every single one was perfectly placed. I don't think I've ever called out, she stood out because the corners that she played were perfectly placed, but I think that is worthy of this statement. She had a great game. Just unlucky. I mean, not a bad idea to go where she went. It went a little high, hit the crossbar. Frankly, I think New Zealand were a little lucky because Norway almost punished them for that. That would have been the go-ahead goal. That would have been the 2-0 goal. That would have been the cushion that New Zealand needed. And there were moments at the end of the game after that missed penalty where it looked like Norway was about to equalize, and they very well could have on any other day.
I was going to say, there was one, was it Hakan, who basically did what looked like a cross, but literally could have gone like an inch or so lower and it would have gone in the goal because it ended up hitting the roof of the net. So
yeah, which would have been disappointing because I do think that New Zealand certainly deserved these 3 points. I think they were the better team today.
As the commentators over in the UK said, that the only way Norway were looking at getting something out of this game was if they accidentally scored a goal because they couldn't score.
All right, so speaking of Norway, we've got to talk about Norway.
How do you solve a problem like Norway? How? Because
how do you solve a problem
like how though, right? Because Euros,
it's a great
they had
question.
Horrible tournament, like one of the worst they've ever had. They sack their manager. They bring in a Norwegian legend in Hege Riis, right, who has literally won it all, has done it all, won the Euros, won the World Cup, won everything, right? So she's coming in, and they are and they have got Hegerberg back. They have got, you know, Hansen, who we've talked about. They have got so many great. They've got Brighton,
Manum, Mielde. It just keeps going.
You look at that list. You look at that list, and they have got player after player that plays for the top clubs in Europe, right? They were so shaky. They were so bad. There was no game plan. Nothing was working. But the thing is, I don't see what they were trying to do. As I said before, that one of them would have the ball, try and look for a pass, and there was no player there. Their off-ball play was horrific.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. When you say their off-ball play, you mean like they weren't fighting for the second ball. They looked like they had given up in the second half. I literally wrote down, I was watching and I said, Norway looks like they're on the 3rd game of this tournament and they've just been frustrated the whole time. They don't look like they're 45 minutes into this tournament. They look like they've been beaten down already. And it's the start of the tournament. There wasn't that fire. What were they trying to do? It looked like they were trying to just lob a ball up to Hegerberg and hope that something good happens. And it makes sense that they're trying to do that because, frankly, we've said this before, Allie, like the 2 things about Norway, and they come together. We talked about this in the Euros. We talked about this in our group previews. Where is the connecting piece? It is so many individuals that haven't figured out how to play together, and so many of those individuals who are so greatly talented play in that attacking third, and there is no connective midfield. There's no holding center mid. There is nobody there for possession. And so what do? They just try to skip that part and try to lob it up and, okay, let's just get it over the top to our front 3, to Hegerberg. And it's a poor tactic. It's not going to win you a World Cup. It might not even let you advance throughout the group stages. And it was incredibly disappointing once again.
If they keep playing like that, they don't deserve to advance from the group stages.
I agree with that. But the thing is, when are we gonna... I think you asked the big question, which is like, how do you solve Norway? How do you solve this? And I think there's 2 possible answers. The first is, frankly, that it's a problem that no coach can really solve, that these players, they've been playing together for a while now, and it just doesn't fit. Sometimes the pieces, they just don't fit together in the puzzle. And this might be just a case of that. You've got so much individual talent, it might not just fit. It just might not fit together. That's one answer. The second answer is that Hege Riis might have found her answer in the last 15 minutes of this game.
Okay.
In the 75th minute, Manum came out and Bo Risa came on, and they pulled Wrighton back. So like Vilde Bo Risa and Wrighton were playing in like the double sixes together. And 5 minutes later, they had probably their best opportunity of the entire game. They almost equalized after that. It was the last 15 they were actually playing well. That gave me a sliver of hope. Like, okay, maybe Norway's not done and out. They can still grow into this tournament, because it was in those last 10-15 when they played with double sixes that they had more possession, they had more opportunities, and there was hope. They just, in those last 10-15, they couldn't find the back of the net, but they finally had a fire underneath them. They could finally keep possession of the ball. There was something happening other than lobbing it up to Hegerberg, and that seemed to at least solve some of the problems.
Maybe. I don't.
You don't believe
I'm sorry. Like, I just don't. This is the second tournament I've watched Norway carefully, and it's just fallen to bits. And some variable 15 minutes of play doesn't make for Any team. I'll be interested to see in their second match to see how they changed. But to be honest, it was painful, and like you could see that they were doing really stupid things, like making stupid challenges. And to be honest, I thought the ref was really good in this game. I know we call them out when they're terrible. I thought the ref had a really good handle of this game. Yet let the advantage play, which I love, and was very fair when it came to things. But she had to like go over to the captain and be like, pull your players back, because they were doing some stupid challenges on the New Zealand players out of frustration. And I'm like, you are too experienced to be doing that. You are doing newbie challenges because you're pissed. Right? Like, you should not be doing that. And so I'm hoping the second game they will sort themselves out.
My question is, when do we stop rating Norway highly? Quite honestly.
It does feel like they're banking on a lot of past success.
Absolutely. I mean, and frankly, it doesn't seem like there's a great vibe among the team. Caroline Graham-Hansen, before the game, said herself that just because they have individual talent, that doesn't equate to a team win. And she specifically said that she thought that the expectations for the team were too high.
Oh.
Frankly, A, I thought she nailed it. B, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, nothing will. Like, that's everything we need to know about this team right now.
We do want to quickly talk about some fun stuff, because there was a moment that I know you loved at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah. It was just so cute. It was just so cute.
Billy goes down and literally gets carried off by Graham Hansen and dumped on the sidelines, because they're like, no, we don't want injury time. We don't want you down while they sort you out. Just stay there.
They were like, we're already in injury time. Get off the field. And for some, I was like, where are the athletic trainers? Why are they taking so long? And clearly Graham Hansen had the same thought. Picked her up. And when they dumped her on the sideline, they kind of just like dropped her. And she had this huge smile on her face too. And then like immediately went back into pain because it looked like her calf was spazzing.
But at least she got it. Like, she understood why. They were like, off you go.
She was probably being like, kid, just get me off. Just get me off. Just put me on the sideline. It just made me giggle. And the fact that she was laughing about it too. It was just like, this is so cute.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So the second game, of course, was the second hosts. It was Australia versus the Republic of Ireland. That game also ended 1-0, as we said. Now, we both have very different view on this, but before we get into it, we do have to talk about the news that came out right before kickoff, which is Sam Kerr has injured herself in training and was out for this game and is more than likely going to be out for the second game, which means that she's only going to play the third group game, and that's still up in the air. So she seems like it's a calf strain she's done.
First of all, I'm choosing to be optimistic that it really is going to be just the first two games, but beyond that, outside of the speculation of when or if we get to see her again, this is heartbreaking. It was just absolutely heartbreaking news for her, for me, for us, but truly, obviously, first of all, for her, this is her moment. She is arguably the best player in the world, arguably the best goal scorer in the world. This is her home tournament. She's been playing for Australia national team since she was 15 years old. She's 30 years old. She's in her prime, and this is her home tournament, and she gets injured the day before opening game in Sydney. It's just heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking for us because, I was so excited to watch Sam Kerr. But that doesn't mean we're not going to get to.
But it's not like she's done the dreaded 3 letters. Like, from the sounds of it, it's just...
Don't even put that out there. Don't even put that out there. But we do have to talk about implications for, losing Sam Kerr 24 hours before kickoff for the rest of the team, which I think we did see the loss. I thought that they played well, but we saw the loss of Sam Kerr. But we'll come on to that. But, obviously heart goes out to her and certainly hope we get to see her in that third group game.
Sure. So let's talk about the teams and what we thought overall. Like I said in the run-up, me and you watched these in reverse order. After the greatness that was the New Zealand-Norway game, this game for me was just so dull. It was so...
I don't think it was dull.
Luster.
I mean, it had a lot of energy, so I don't know how it could be dull. There was a lot of physicality, a lot of feistiness.
Which to be fair, I'm bored of. When we talk about Ireland and we talk about their midfielders, then we can go into why I'm bored of it. But for me, it was just... It didn't have the same heart that the New Zealand-Norway game had for me. I was just...
Well, I feel like maybe what you're alluding to is that the New Zealand-Norway game, neither team was choosing to just sit back and defend. Both teams were going at it. And this was a different type of game. Ireland was clearly sitting back and defending, and Australia were trying to break them down. And that was the name of the game, this entire game. And that's not bad for any reason. That's just a different type of game, because when Ireland defend... they play a 3-4-3, but when they defend, it kind of turns into like a 5-back, which, as we all know, it's hard to break down. And Ireland's a very organized team. So this, I think what you're alluding to, like I said, is that this game had fewer dimensions probably to it.
So the thing is, you have mentioned, and you're alluded to, and when we talk about Australia, we'll talk about it more, saying that having Sam Kerr missing was a key thing for Australia. Now, mentality-wise...
I don't know about key, but I saw it.
Mentality-wise, maybe a bit like Germany in the Euros with Pop injuring so close to the game. But I felt like the Irish defence was so tight. I don't think even having Sam Kerr in that first half would have made a massive difference, because I can't see her have broken through the way that Ireland were defending. Maybe second half they would have got a goal that wasn't a penalty, but first half I don't think it made much difference.
Here's what I think Sam Kerr was missing. I actually think that mentally... Australia responded fantastically to this. I couldn't tell, and I think rightfully so. The big difference between this team in 2023 and the 2019 team from the World Cup 4 years ago, as we've spoken about many times before, Allie, is that it's not all hinging on Sam Kerr. In 2019, it was all hinging on Sam Kerr. And throughout these 4 years, they've built and they've grown, and they know that they have a bunch of different goal scorers across the field, and that's probably why their mentality didn't necessarily falter. However, it has to be acknowledged that Sam Kerr is a massive emotional leader. She is the captain of this team, but I thought they responded well mentally. Where I think that Sam Kerr was missing is what Sam Kerr brings to the game always, which is Sam Kerr brings more than what she brings when she's on the ball. She is key for more than what she does when the ball is at her feet, and for more than just the goal scoring ability. Australia is an explosive team, and we'll talk about this too, because they don't like to have possession. They're a counterattack. They're an explosive counterattacking team that is in many ways built around Sam Kerr and the explosiveness of Sam Kerr. And they're built around her, like I said, not just of her with the ball at her feet, but also their offense, it does center around her runs off of the ball, the threat that she presents, and specifically in the threat that she presents and those runs, drawing defenders away and exposing space for her teammates. You want to know partially why her teammates are able to score so much? Obviously because they're talented, but also because she's drawing defenders away and she's making that space. She doesn't get the credit she deserves for the space that she can create without the ball at her feet. So that's where I thought she was maybe missing in this game, because especially in a low block, you need to find those pockets. And she's good at finding those pockets with her head, usually, splitting those center backs or drawing defenders out. So that's where I thought she was missing. But despite that, I mean, this was a massive win for Australia. Massive, massive, massive. For many reasons, and we'll stop talking about Sam Kerr after this, but knowing that you could potentially get Sam Kerr back in the third game and you've already got a win tucked under your belt, you're sitting pretty good to know you're probably going to advance in the one or the two spot.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. However, performance-wise, I wasn't convinced by Australia. I think anybody who follows our social media, I was in charge of tweeting in the first game, which was, we said that we thought that New Zealand would need the luck and Australia would benefit from the home advantage bounce. And for me, I felt like it was the other way around. Australia needed some luck and it was New Zealand that appreciated the bounce. I'm hoping, again, this is the first game of a very long tournament, hopefully, for Australia. So therefore, it's just first game nerves. But I wasn't convinced. I just wasn't by their performance.
I agree. I think that's kind of why I'm saying, like, that's where the Sam Kerr element was clearly missing to me, because I was expecting to be convinced, and we'll never know what would have happened had Sam Kerr been in that game, but I wasn't necessarily convinced. Despite not being convinced, though, I thought that given what happened, given what they were dealing with mentally, given the fact that Ireland is, like, we need to give them credit, one of the hardest low blocks in the world to break down, and Australia was able to break them down. Granted, it was on a penalty kick, but still, they were able to do so. We have to give them credit for that. And sometimes in a tournament, you just need a little bit of that luck. You drew the penalty and you put the penalty away. And, you know, you got to have these types of games. When you win a tournament, everybody who's won the World Cup has had these types of games. Sometimes you just got to grind it out. And Australia did that.
Okay, so I will be more positive, and I will say that there's 2 shout-outs I want to give to Australia player-wise. The first one, and not because she's a West Ham player, but I do want to give a shout-out to Mackenzie Arnold, because I thought Mackenzie Arnold was
well-deserved,
brilliant in goal, dealt with Ireland's like attacks and corners really well, and was just on it, I think. So for me, Mackenzie Arnold. And then I want to shout out Gory. Gory, for me, what a player. She was a bright spark on that Australian team and was beautiful to watch. And the run she made, and she was super clever. And for me, I loved her. So yeah, those are my 2 standouts for Australia.
I totally agree. And I'm going to add her defense. Like, Gory on the defensive end, her presence defensively was massive. I mean, I love Australia's 2 center midfielders in exactly Gory, what you just said, and Cooney Cross. We all know I love Cooney Cross, though, but I thought that the 2 of them working together, and then seeing both of them being able to work off of the young Ellie Carpenter, who also, by the way, had a fantastic game. You know, there's just so much here. There's so much here. I second your Mackenzie Arnold call out, because truly she
I was going to say, I'm not just doing it because she's a West Ham player. She honestly, for a goal, she was just on it. She was so on it. It was...
Yeah. And for those of you listening, we are going to come on to Ireland. We're going to talk about the winners, continue to talk about the winners, Australia here first. Obviously, Australia taking it 1-0. And have we complimented their offense? I think that we have well enough. I do want to comment one more thing on, you know, I think Fowler obviously got the start. Mary Fowler, who was an incredible young talent. She got the start when Sam Kerr was crossed off of the team sheet. But I would have rather seen her in the number 9 position and Caitlin Ford in the 10.
As a number 10.
Yeah.
And like, we love her. Anybody who's listening to us knows we love her, but I just think for this game she was a bit too quiet.
But yeah, and she's got pace. Like, I'd rather see her at that 9, and Caitlin Ford always does better at the 10, at that like held back, almost like dropped 9 position anyways. So I don't know. I kind of hope to see that in the next game. But frankly, I'm going to add to the callouts. I thought that Courtney Vine, the young left winger, there were a few times when, and I think across the board, Australia was holding the ball a little bit too long, especially in the first half. I felt like they really found their groove in the second half, and Courtney Vine was guilty of holding the ball a little bit too long. But I thought she had a great game as well. As I mentioned, though, just like to finish on the Australia offense, and then I think we moved to the defense, I thought that they grew into this game really well. The first half, they were taking too many touches. They were frustrated by the low block. They were just like pounding balls in, and they weren't a team that was used. They're not a team that wants possession. I think this is like a massive talking point for Australia. They're not a team that wants possession, and neither is Ireland. And so Australia kind of looked in the first half like, wait, what? We have the ball? We don't want the ball.
And Ireland were like, we don't want the ball.
Like, that's kind of what. Yeah, exactly. And it was very clear that I think why maybe we weren't convinced, Allie, about Australia is that they were so shaky in possession. They didn't know how, they looked like Bambi. Like, what do we do with the ball? And they grew into that in the second half. They figured out how to move the ball around, how to have some patience before they went forward. And I think that to transition into the defense, I think that the center backs getting more comfortable with the ball at their feet was a huge piece of that.
So defensively, we were talking about Australia, that they were just quite shaky. They were sloppy. which we've not seen from Australia really, but they gave the ball away too often. Like, you've got Irish players marauding at you and they did stupid little passes that were not going where they should have done.
I feel like that's always been Australia's issue, is like a little bit of a shaky back line and giving the ball away in the wrong places. And they did it a little bit too much, and lucky for them they weren't punished. But yeah, I think that's the big thing for Australia moving forward. But enough about Australia. The Matildas making their home tournament debut, and Ireland making their World Cup debut in this game. How'd you feel about Ireland's performance?
I have many feelings about Ireland's performance.
We'll start with the positive.
Don't
Okay?
have much positive. That's the problem. No.
Really? Oh, I have some. I mean, if I'm Ireland, I'm very happy with that performance. You know, if Ireland were close to tucking an equalizer away, and if they had, I would have said that was well deserved by them. I thought that they played this game very well. They stuck to their game plan, and they were almost able to pull out the draw.
Yeah, okay, I will be nicer about Ireland. There were certain players that I feel like played super well. Louise Quinn, for example. I think Louise Quinn was a pillar of their back line in keeping that tight, low block that Ireland do so well, and then was really dangerous when she got pushed forward when they made some changes, because again, she can do both. She does it for Birmingham all the time, so she's a really dangerous player. I think Lucy Quinn was really good to, like, again, having the Quins.
I was about to say, the other Quinn was also great.
We had two great Rileys for New Zealand, and we had two good Quins for the Republic of Ireland, so I think they were brilliant. I think it was great to see Farrelly back. That was a highlight for me after everything that had happened. It was so great to see her back playing for her national team again. But that's all I got.
I want to shout out Denise O'Sullivan. I think she was doing a lot of the dirty work in the midfield. She's such a talent, obviously, and we're used to seeing her talent on display more like with the ball at her feet and what she could do in pulling the strings. And in this game, really for her, just called for a lot more of the dirty work, especially in being called back into the back line sometimes and overall just defending more. And she played that center midfield role that you're only going to recognize when she's gone. You know what I mean? Like, and that's somebody who's doing the unseen, the unheard dirty work, but the work that needs to be done. And I thought she had a great game in the center mid. I know you want to talk about Katie McCabe. Let's just get into the physicality. Let's talk about Katie McCabe. This was a very physical game, and I know you have things to say about it. And I do too.
I was
so let's do
angry
it.
watching this game. I was raging watching this game with this performance. I think Katie McCabe, and Karen Bardsley said it best. Karen Bardsley was commentating for the BBC on this game, and she turned around and she went, Kate McCabe is being petulant and she needs to knock it off because she's going to cause her team more heartache than it's going to help. The challenges McCabe made were stupid. They were not even basic errors or anything. They were stupid. They came out of frustration, and we've got to stop giving her passes now. I'm fed up with it. We need to stop giving her these passes. It's just her personality. It's just what she does. No, because she's going to injure someone. She's going to do a Drew Spence and break someone's leg. She's going to do something really dumb, potentially end someone's career, and we need to call it out now and knock it on the head, and it's got to stop.
I actually very much agree. As somebody who loves Katie McCabe and loves her fight, her fire, her mentality, I love a player that goes 100% all of the time. I really do. It was too, I was worried in watching this game. I was literally sitting there and I was thinking to myself, please don't hurt somebody because I still really want to like you.
I'm telling you now, I was fearing for Rasso in that game because between the two of them.
I mean, I'm gonna expand that and say, first of all, I agree with everything you said. And Katie McCabe is a leader on this team, and she was not necessarily acting like one in the emotional sense. Now, I'm not saying that she has to change everything about her, but I do feel that Katie McCabe and Ireland as a whole, I think it wasn't just Katie McCabe, although I think she was, the biggest offender, obviously. Ireland, despite having played a very organized, good game, they were playing like this was their first ever World Cup game. Like this was their first ever World Cup appearance, because you could tell that, look, there's a different mentality. There's a tournament mentality, and it is very different than a friendly, than qualifiers, than a league game. And they went way too hard. And now their two best players in Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe are already carrying yellow cards. So if they even do make it out of the group stage, odds are they're probably pretty screwed. One of them, probably Katie McCabe, is probably not going to be able to play. And that's a rookie mistake. You have to approach a tournament with a different type of mentality. And I felt like Ireland were playing this like it was a league match, like it was a friendly, and there were no further implications beyond this game of what happened within those white lines in those 90 minutes.
It was so hypocritical as well, because they'd come out talking about Colombia, and obviously we've not seen all of it because it was played behind closed doors, but they were talking about how dangerous Colombia were and how Denise O'Sullivan had to go to hospital for a bruise, could have been a bad injury, and to come out and with those comments, and then what I saw from Kate McCabe was just as bad. It was like, there's this one challenge where she was so high on one of the Australian players, and it was just, I'm like, I was ashamed to be rooting for Ireland, because I was rooting for Ireland in this game because they are, European team, close to my country.
I was rooting for Australia.
Yeah, but I was rooting for Ireland. They are like my second team, and I was ashamed to be supporting them because by some of the behaviour, and that's why I couldn't think of anything good to begin with, because everything was clouded by how horrendous.
I suppose I don't take it that far, to be honest. Like, it's a World Cup game, tempers are flaring, it's their first one ever. There are nerves, there's everything, and there's most of all, massive competitive spirit. So for it to go a little too far, it's understandable to me. So, I'm not disappointed in them. I don't hold it over their heads. I do think that they looked like a rookie team, and not in a positive way. That's kind of how I see it.
They didn't do themselves any favors at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we're about to end this game, chat, without talking about the goal. We haven't talked about the penalty. We haven't talked about Australia's goal. I mean, what a penalty kick. That is a non-savable penalty kick. Steph Catley tucked that into the side netting. And yeah, I know you didn't get the chills. I got the chills. Seeing all of them run over to the sideline, seeing how many of them were just like jumping. I swear they were jumping like 10 feet in the air with joy. It was heartwarming in a stadium packed of more than 70,000 people in Sydney. And I mean, if you watch the Matildas documentary, you're probably rooting for that team too. Just this team, they never get to play at home. They never get to be at home. They never get to be with their families. And to see that, it brought tears to my eyes. It was just both those goals today, they were just very, very special moments. New Zealand are taking on the Philippines next. Australia take on Nigeria. Australia conclude their Group B match day games with a Australia versus Canada matchup. Could that one potentially be the decider between who goes first and who goes second? Don't know. Unfortunately, later today for me, and at like 3 a.m. for you, you finally have a 3 a.m. game, Canada is taking on Nigeria. So we're not going to get to cover that today, because we're going to release this episode probably by the time that game ends. Question mark.
No pressure, Mike.
All right. And that is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. This is our World Cup coverage. The World Cup is off and running, baby. And we will be back, as you know, on Tuesday. Episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If you want extra content, head to our Patreon. And that is it for us right now for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
They play a 3-4-3, but when they defend, it kind of turns into like a 5.
Sarah's doing the maths. It's hilarious. Mike, keep that in.
You know what? I'm so tired.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.